Part 1, Echoes in the Void. I always imagined the cosmos as a vast canvas painted with stars, each one whispering secrets of distant worlds. Little did I know, I'd find myself tangled in one of those whispers, stranded amid derelict vessels and the eerie resonance of things long past. It was supposed to be a routine inspection, just another day in the life of a fleet engineer. My trusty ship, the Spectre, a mid-sized, sturdy little frigate with more odd quirks than functional systems, and I were headed out to the Reclamation Zone. Picture a scrapyard, but in space. The place where ships go to die, leaving behind a graveyard of forgotten battles. The kind of place you'd find remnants of everything from cargo freighters to the occasional war cruiser, all caught in the gravitational dance of a nearby pulsar. The Spectre's sensors beeped erratically, just an old ship's way of reminding me of my shortcomings as a mechanic. I was about to give the console a good thump when something made me pause. An anomaly. I leaned forward, squinting at the chaotic symphony of data on the screen. It was faint, almost a ghostly murmur amidst the stellar noise, a broadcast signal, weak but undeterred by time. I couldn't help but chuckle, thinking of how things had changed. Once I might have ignored it. Now curiosity crept in, stronger than ever. "You've got to be kidding me," I muttered, running a quick triangulation on the source. The origin was right at the heart of the Reclamation Zone, where sensor readings were a scrambled mess thanks to the pulsar's incessant energies. But what kind of engineer would I be if a little cosmic static scared me off? With a slight shift in thrusters, I set course for the source, my mind spinning with possibilities. Perhaps it was some automated distress signal, or better yet, an old emergency cache. It didn't take long to navigate through the twisted maze of metal and forgotten ambition. Wreckage stretched in every direction, the remains of hundreds of ships. They floated in eerie silence, skeletons of a war long past. I felt the familiar chill of being watched, perhaps by the ghosts of warriors who once soared these stars. We arrived at the source, and the Spectre's lights cut through the darkness, revealing a massive derelict. The hull bore scars of battle, darkened by time and radiation. I couldn't identify its make, certainly nothing from the standard fleet registry. Its architecture was alien. "All right, old girl," I said, patting the console. "Let's see what we've stumbled into." Docking was a delicate dance. The Spectre's grip was tenuous, as if the ship itself hesitated to touch something so ancient. I donned my EVA suit, its systems humming faithfully around me. My heart thudded in my chest as the airlock hissed open to reveal the dark, silent corridors of the derelict. I moved through the ship with all the grace of a newborn deer, my boots making hollow thuds in the silence. My helmet light cut through the darkness, revealing corridors lined with strange glyphs that seemed to glow faintly when the light passed over them. A low hum filled the air, a melody of static and memory. It was the broadcast, stronger now, echoing through the corridors like the ship's own heartbeat. I followed the sound, attempting to decipher its rhythm. As I delved deeper, I stumbled upon a chamber filled with technology far beyond anything I'd seen before. It was a massive circular room, dominated by a crystalline structure in the center that pulsated with an internal light. I approached it cautiously, the signal growing louder, the mystery deeper. The crystal seemed to respond, flickering in a rhythm that suggested language, communication. Before I knew it, the cycle of light and sound pulled me in, showing me visions of a world far removed from ours. A world once vibrant, now silent. I saw their civilization, their technology, their ultimate catastrophe. It was as if the crystal was a recording device, desperately replaying its loops for anyone willing to listen. There was a sudden tremor. The ship groaned as if disapproving of my presence. I staggered, my suit's stabilizers struggling to keep me upright, and with that tremor came understanding, a horrific understanding. The derelict wasn't just a ship, it was a tomb, and the signal wasn't a call for help. it was a warning. As I turned to leave, my eyes caught something that made my blood run cold. A shadow slipped through the corridor, moving with an unnatural grace. Not human, definitely not human. I sprinted, each step a resounding echo chasing me back to the specter. Whatever was in that ship wasn't just an echo of a forgotten past. It was very much alive. It should have been a quick escape, just undock and go, but life, as always, had other plans. The Spectre's systems flickered, the sensors going haywire. Something was interfering, jamming our systems. From the derelict's depths, the static returned, louder, insistent. "Looks like I've made a few new friends," I muttered under my breath, trying to keep humor in the face of impending doom. My hands danced across the controls, coaxing the Spectre back to life. The engines roared to full power, their familiar vibrations a welcome relief. As we broke away from the derelict, I couldn't shake the feeling of those unnatural eyes still watching me, trailing my every move. The broadcast was still there, lingering at the edge of perception, a reminder of what lay back there, a forgotten warning in the void. The Spectre and I drifted away, leaving the graveyard behind. But the mystery of that ancient alien ship had latched onto my soul, a whisper that would not be silenced. Whatever had happened there wasn't over, not by a long shot. As I plotted a course back to the nearest station, a thought tickled the back of my mind. Maybe it was time to gather a crew. Even in the silence of space, it seemed I was in for one hell of a ride. Part 2, Shadows Among Stars. Back at Tersai Station, the hub of this sector's operations and the closest thing I had to a home, I watched the multicolored nebulae swirl beyond the windows of the dock. The Spectre was moored up, her systems getting a much-needed reboot after the ordeal with the derelict. As I wandered through the busy corridors of the station, pondering the surreal events, I couldn't shake the feeling of being followed. Old instincts, honed by years of solitary voyages, were shouting at me again. The air was alive with chatter, traders hawking exotic goods, pilots exchanging rumors of new cosmic phenomena. Amongst the bustle, I picked out a familiar face. Talia, a skilled pilot with a penchant for trouble and an irreverent sense of humor that often reminded me of my own. We shared enough scrapes to be more than acquaintances, but less than friends. "Talia," I called out, weaving through the crowd. She turned, a lopsided grin spreading across her face. "Look who the cat dragged in," she said, arms crossing as she leaned against a bulkhead. "Heard you poked your nose into the Reclamation Zone. You looking for trouble again, or did it just find you?" "Both," I admitted, matching her grin despite the unease still gnawing at me. "I found something, or maybe it found me, need a second pair of eyes." Her eyes narrowed, curiosity piqued. "You don't call for help unless it's big, spill." I relayed the story, the derelict's haunting message, the shadow lurking in its depths. Her expression shifted from amused to intrigued, and finally to something akin to concern. "Sounds like you've stumbled onto something above your pay grade," she said, nodding slowly. "But you know me, I never could resist a good mystery." "Lucky me, I need someone who won't bolt at the first sign of trouble." She shot me a sidelong glance. "You expect trouble." "I do now." We spent the next few hours assembling a small team, a ragtag group pieced together from the station's denizens. There was Rylan, a mechanic whose hands were as quick as his temper. Myra, a tech-savvy scientist whose curiosity often led her into precarious situations. And finally, Skeevy, a glib trader who insisted he was a consultant but had the demeanor of a hustler. The Spectre was stocked and ready. As we embarked, the station's artificial gravity faded behind us, replaced by the gentle sway of the ship as it slipped into the embrace of the stars. The journey back to the Reclamation Zone was uneventful, marked only by the quiet hum of the engines and the low murmur of conversation from the crew. It wasn't until we were back in the shadow of the derelict that the air inside the Spectre grew taut with anticipation. The alien ship loomed, its presence a stark reminder of the mystery and the danger it held. As we docked, I felt the same uneasy prickle across my skin, the sensation of being watched. I glanced at Talia, who gave me a silent nod, her usual bravado tempered by the gravity of our task. Rylan and Myra began tapping into the derelict's systems, their expressions a mix of frustration and fascination. "This tech doesn't match any known configurations," Myra murmured, her eyes glued to a tablet as she sifted through the data. "It's as if it's operating on a completely different set of principles." "Keep at it," I urged, my gaze shifting to the corridor that led deeper into the ship. "Talia, SCI-FI, let's take a look around." As we moved through those dimly lit passages, the glyphs on the walls pulsed in response to our presence, casting eerie reflections. The air was thick with the unspoken weight of history, echoing with the ghostly remnants of the broadcast. We found ourselves back in the central chamber, the crystalline structure still pulsating softly. Talia approached it cautiously, her hand hovering over its surface. "What do you think?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "It's like a black box, but for an entire civilization," I replied, the words tasting of awe and dread. Suddenly the ship shuddered as if waking from a deep slumber. The shadows in the room shifted, and a shape, ethereal yet undeniably real, began to coalesce in the air. It was the alien presence, and it seemed curious. SCI-FI yelped, nearly toppling over. "What in the hells is that?" The entity moved gracefully, observing us with eyes that were not eyes, a presence that felt both ancient and knowing. Talia took a step back, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. "We mean no harm." The entity's form flickered, and I felt a whispering touch at the edges of my mind. Images, emotions, fragments of understanding shared in a heartbeat. The derelict's tragic story unfolded, a civilization undone by its own creations. And then it was gone, leaving behind a silence so profound it felt like the universe itself was holding its breath. "What just happened?" SCI-FI asked, eyes wide, voice shaky. "We've been warned," I said, the realization settling uneasily within me. Whatever happened here, it's not contained, it's spreading. The Spectre's alarms suddenly blared, a proximity alert. Something was approaching. We rushed back to the ship, the corridors echoing with our hurried footsteps. And there, on the Spectre's screens, we saw it, a fleet of unfamiliar ships, sleek and deadly, converging on our location. It seemed our discovery had drawn attention, and not the good kind. As I issued commands, prepping the Spectre for a swift departure, I knew we were diving headfirst into a situation far bigger than any of us had anticipated. But there was no turning back now, not when the stars were so full of secrets, not when the echoes of the past still rang in the void. Part 3: The Gathering Storm. The Spectre's engines roared to life, rattling through the hull as Talia and I scrambled to our stations. The alien fleet loomed ominously on the radar, their sleek forms gliding through the debris with an unsettling grace. Whoever or whatever they were, they had locked onto us with unwavering focus. "Rylan, Myra, get ready for evasive maneuvers," I barked, flicking switches and scanning the readings that flooded the console. SCI-FI, face pale, hovered nearby, clearly out of his depth but trying not to show it. Talia swiveled in her seat, fingers dancing over the controls. "You think they're here for us or just coincidentally menacing?" "With our luck, they're definitely here for us," I replied. Humor, even in its driest form, felt like the only buoy in a rising tide of chaos. The derelict's presence shrank in the rear view as the Spectre clawed its way free from the gravitational pull of the zone. The alien ships gave chase, their formation tightening like a noose. Our only advantage was the familiarity with our ship's quirks. The Spectre may have been old, but she was feisty. "They're trying to box us in," Myra said, her eyes flicking between her tablet and the external feeds. "This tech on their ships, it's similar to what we saw on the derelict." "Meaning we're not just dealing with scavengers," Rylan added, voice tight. "They know exactly what they're doing." A sudden jolt rocked the ship. Shields flared with color, absorbing the brunt of an energy blast. Sparks flew from an overhead panel, showering the cockpit in a blaze of fiery embers. The air was thick with the smell of burnt circuits and adrenaline. "We can't outrun them," I said, gripping the controls until my knuckles ached. "We need to level the playing field." "What's your plan?" Talia asked, her voice steady, a rock in the storm. "That anomaly near the pulsar. We head straight for it," I said. "Their ships might be new, but I've got a hunch they won't handle the interference as well as the Spectre." "You're betting our lives on a hunch." Skeevy's voice rose an octave, panic seeping through his bravado. "Do you have a better idea?" I shot back, a thin smile playing on my lips more for my own comfort than his. With no more time to debate, we veered off course, angling towards the pulsar's turbulent wake. The closer we drew, the more chaotic the readings became. The magnetic storm surrounding the pulsar was a maelstrom of energy and radiation that could fry any ship unprepared for its fury. The alien fleet hesitated, their formation faltering as the interference scrambled their systems. It was just the opening we needed. The Spectre surged forward, pushing through the distortion with the tenacity of a creature of legends. The hull groaned in protest but held together, the old ship proving her mettle yet again. As the alien ship struggled behind us, I realized we had another pressing issue. The anomaly near the pulsar, it wasn't a natural occurrence. It was a construct, a shimmering orbital station camouflaged by the pulsar's radiance. We emerged from the storm's edge, the station coming into focus. Sleek and enigmatic, it hovered against the starry backdrop, its surface bristling with antennae and spires. This was no ordinary station. Its very design sang of the same advanced technology as the derelict. "Who builds a station in a place like this?" Talia wondered aloud, awe-threading her voice. "Someone who wants to stay hidden," I replied, a chill creeping down my spine. "Or someone who needs to keep something contained." With the alien fleet momentarily shaken, we took the chance to dock. The station's magnetic grip clamped onto the Spectre, drawing us in with mechanical precision. As we disembarked, I felt the familiar buzz of anticipation combined with an unsettling sense of déjà vu. The station's interior was a marvel, corridors of smooth metal and ambient light that seemed to pulse in time with the hum of energy coursing through its veins. The air was sterile, carrying only the faintest hint of ozone. As we moved deeper into the station, the architecture unfolded with a graceful logic, leading us inexorably towards its core. The control center was a cavernous space, dominated by a central console that projected complex holograms into the air, maps, star charts, and energy readings that made my head spin with their intricacy. "All of this," Myra breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "It's like a library of knowledge just waiting to be unlocked." "Then let's see what secrets it's hiding," Rylan said, already plugging into the console with his toolkit. While they worked, I paced, my thoughts churning. This station, the derelict, the alien fleet, all pieces of a puzzle that refused to align. A discovery waiting to be unearthed, yet so perilously close to consuming us in the process. Suddenly, the room darkened, the holograms flickering before coalescing into a singular image. It was the entity. From the derelict now projected larger than life. Its form was more defined, its presence commanding yet non-threatening. "It's trying to communicate," I said, feeling the resonance in my bones. The alien visage shifted, symbols and patterns swirling in a dance of intent. Understanding began to dawn, a message, a plea. This station was a beacon, a last stand against the disaster that had befallen its creators, and now it seemed we were part of its unfolding story. As the alien fleet closed in once more, their ships appearing on the station's sensors, I knew we had to decide. This was more than a matter of survival. It was a call to action, a chance to change the trajectory of a cosmic tragedy still echoing across the stars. The shadows were gathering, but so too was the light. And in that light I saw a path forward, one fraught with risk and reward intertwined like twin strands of fate. "Let's give them a story worth telling," I said, determination lining every word. "For them, for us, and for the stars yet to be." It was time to stand our ground, to take the fight to the heart of the mystery, and to find a way through the storm. Part 4. The Heart of the Maelstrom. The station resonated with an urgency that throbbed through the air like the pulse of a distant star. The alien entity, projected in ghostly luminescence, hovered before us, a sentinel guiding us through the labyrinth of its shattered past and uncertain future. "The enemy's almost here," Talia murmured, her gaze fixed on the approaching blips crowding the sensors. Her voice was steady, as if she were discussing the weather rather than the impending showdown. "Then we have no time to waste," I said, stepping up to the console. The holographic display flared to life at my touch, responding with layers of data that swirled around us in an intricate dance. Myra and Rylan worked in tandem, fingers flying over interfaces as they deciphered the alien technology. The symbols shifted and reformed, mapping connections between the station and the larger cosmic web of which it was a part. This station wasn't just a relic, it was a nerve center, a linchpin in a vast defense network. As understanding dawned, virtual lines illuminated pathways across the holographic galaxy, highlighting corridors of hyperspace and nodes of power concentrated at strategic points. The network was designed to contain a singularity, a gravitic anomaly of unimaginable strength, a black hole birthed from the catastrophic failure of the civilization's experiments. I felt a chill as the pieces fell into place. The derelict's message, the alien fleet's pursuit, all threads leading to the same bleak tapestry. The entity these constructs, they were all guardians, holding the line against an unraveling of cosmic scales. "We have to activate it," Myra said, urgency pushing against her usually composed demeanor. "If we can power the station, we can reinforce the containment fields." "Right," Rylan agreed. "And if we mess up, we could inadvertently turn this place into a fireworks display that'll outshine the sun." "No pressure then," Talia quipped, though the edge in her voice betrayed her own tension. I caught her eye sharing a brief but meaningful nod. We were all in this together for better or worse. Let's trust that old proverb, fortune favors the bold. But as we set about our task, the station shuddered, a tremor rippling through its structure, echoing like a distant thunderclap. The alien ships had arrived and they weren't knocking politely. The station's defensive systems flared to life, but they were ancient and strained, flickering like candles in a storm. From our vantage point, I watched the alien fleet array itself, their ships forming a barrier, poised to strike. "Time to earn our keep," I said, turning to Skeevy, who was jittery but ready. "Get the Spectre primed and keep her on standby. We might need a quick exit." "Got it, boss," Skeevy replied, his usual bravado tempered by the gravity of the situation. With the station's systems partially online, we split our focus. Rylan and I worked to stabilize the containment grid, while Myra and Talia attempted to coax more power from the ancient reserves. The alien entity hovered, observing, its presence a constant reminder of the stakes. The holographic displays shimmered, guiding our efforts with flashes of insight and instruction. Slowly, the systems responded, the energy field growing stronger with each passing second. But the alien fleet was relentless. Their first salvo hit with devastating force, the station rocking under the impact. Consoles flickered, alarms blared, and the ceiling lights stuttered, plunging us into intermittent darkness. "Shields are holding, but barely," Talia shouted over the din, her hands darting over the controls like a conductor directing a symphony of survival. "Just need a little more time," Myra said, her focus unwavering as she manipulated the controls to reroute auxiliary power. The station's defenses returned fire, plasma bursts slicing through the void, warding off the immediate threat. But it was a losing battle. The alien ships were too many, too coordinated. In a moment of clarity, I saw the entity's intent. This wasn't simply a defensive outpost. It was a beacon, a last call for reinforcements scattered across the cosmos. "We need to amplify the signal," I realized, the words tumbling out in a rush. "If there's anyone out there, we have to let them know we're still fighting." Myra nodded, understanding without needing more explanation. Together, we rerouted the station's power, focusing the output to boost the broadcast. As the signal bled out into the cosmos, the entity pulsed with renewed vigor, its form shimmering with hope kindled anew. The control room brightened, the air alive with static and anticipation. The alien fleet redoubled their attack, sensing the shift in momentum. But just as their ships closed in for the final blow, the space around us shimmered, a ripple, a tear, and suddenly ships emerged from the void. Reinforcements, an eclectic fleet of vessels, answering the station's sea. It was a ragtag armada, not unlike our own crew, but it was enough. The battle turned, the alien fleet scattering as the newcomers engaged, buying us precious moments to complete the activation sequence. The containment fields surged to life, their glow encompassing the station and the anomaly it guarded. Breathing a sigh of relief, I turned to my crew, a smile tugging at my lips despite the chaos. "Looks like we've got company." Talia grinned back, the tension easing from her shoulders. "And just in time, too, we really do have all the luck." We watched as the reinforcements joined the fray, their ships weaving a protective net around the station, holding the line against the alien ships determined to break it. The tide had turned, the heart of the maelstrom now a beacon of hope amidst the darkness. Yet, even as we celebrated, I knew this was just the beginning. The universe was vast, its mysteries deep and unfathomable. And as the entity faded from view, leaving us with its trust and its task, I felt the weight of the stars on my shoulders. But I also felt the strength of my crew beside me, and that was enough to face whatever came next. Together, we would journey into the unknown, carving our story into the fabric of the cosmos, one challenge at a time. Part 5: Beyond the Veil. With the station secure and the alien fleet driven into retreat, an unexpected calm settled over us. The reinforced containment fields hummed with radiant energy, a testament to our defiance in the face of overwhelming odds. But the realization that this was merely a prelude to a larger struggle gnawed at the edges of my relief. The ragtag fleet that had answered our distressed call lingered in orbit, a mosaic of ships from distant corners of the galaxy. Each one carried stories of its own, tales that mirrored our fight against the encroaching darkness. Yet, even among these allies, there was an unspoken understanding that the road ahead was fraught with uncertainty. As the Spectre floated in the docking bay, Talia and I made our way back on board, the weight of recent events settling heavy on our shoulders. The rest of the crew followed, their faces marked by a mixture of exhaustion and resolve. "Not the reunion I expected," Skeevy remarked, casting a glance out the viewport at the diverse assembly gathered around the station. I couldn't help but chuckle, though my mind was already churning with possibilities. Never a dull moment, is there? Rylan joined us, his expression a study in concentration as he inspected the readings on his device. That broadcast we amplified, it didn't just summon reinforcements, it also revealed something else, a signal, one that's been dormant until now. Myra, ever the scientist, perked up. "What kind of signal?" "It's originating from within the anomaly," he explained, eyes scanning for details that only he could interpret. "A call or perhaps an invitation." Pondering his words, I felt the familiar tug of curiosity. Whatever lay beyond, it was intricately tied to the mystery we had been thrust into, a tapestry woven from threads of ancient distress and desperate hope. "We need to investigate," I said, the resolve in my voice echoing through the cabin. "If there's more to this than we've uncovered, we owe it to ourselves, and to them, to find out." Talia nodded, adjusting her gloves with a determined flourish. "You know I'm in. Besides, I think we've proven we're rather good at poking hornets' nests." Myra and Rylan exchanged a glance, their silent agreement clear. Skeevy hesitated, but when he spoke, it was with the bravado he'd honed to an art form. "What the hell? I'm not missing the chance to be on the wrong side of another adventure." With our course set, we began preparations to enter the very heart of the anomaly. The Spectre thrummed with anticipation, her systems humming in harmony with the cosmic symphony that surrounded us. As we approached the edge, the fabric of reality seemed to shimmer, the starlight bending and twisting into a kaleidoscope of colors. It was as if the universe itself were holding its breath, watching our progress with bated curiosity. "Here goes nothing," I murmured, guiding the ship forward, the rest of the crew bracing themselves for whatever lay beyond. Crossing the threshold was like stepping through a veil into another world. The air grew charged with energy, and the ship shuddered as if in response to the change. The view beyond the viewport was breathtaking, a celestial expanse that stretched into infinity, the stars themselves dancing in patterns too complex to fathom. Talia let out a low whistle. "Now that's a sight." But it wasn't just the view that captivated us. There was something more, a presence woven into the very fabric of this place. It was the entity, or perhaps its echoes, resonating in the depths of the anomaly. Myra's eyes widened as she studied the readings. These energy signatures, they're off the charts. Whatever's here, it's ancient and powerful. Rylan moved to a different console, his fingers flying across the keys. "I'm detecting structures, massive ones, like a city, but ethereal." We navigated toward the source, winding our way through an intricate lattice of light and shadow. The structures loomed, great arcs and spirals that defied conventional architecture, their surfaces shimmering with an otherworldly glow. As we drew closer, I could feel the entity's presence intensify, a pulsing rhythm that matched the beat of my own heart. It was as if we were being welcomed, guided deeper into the mystery. And then, without warning, the Spectre was enveloped in a wash of light. The controls flickered, and for a brief, terrifying moment, we were suspended in a cocoon of luminescence. When the light faded, we were somewhere else entirely, a chamber of breathtaking scale, its walls inscribed with the intricate glyphs we'd seen before. They glowed with a gentle luminescence, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper secrets. The entity's presence was palpable here, its essence woven into the architecture itself. As we took in our surroundings, it became clear that this was a command center, a nexus where worlds had once converged. "We're standing in the heart of something edible," Myra whispered, her voice tinged with awe. But as wondrous as it was, the chamber bore scars of conflict, reminders of the cataclysm that had befallen this place. And yet, amid the ruin, there was hope, an opportunity to mend what had been broken. The entity's voice, more tangible than ever, filled the chamber, each note a story, each silence an invitation. We were not alone. We were part of a continuum, a lineage of those who had ventured into the unknown and returned with tales that stretched beyond the stars. It was time to join them, to add our own chapter to the saga of a universe still learning the art of survival and renewal. And as we stood at the threshold of discovery, the Spectre and her crew poised to explore the unfathomable depths of this new reality, I knew that we were exactly where we were meant to be. Part 6: Threads of Destiny. The chamber pulsed with a rhythm that seemed to echo the universe itself, a celestial heartbeat that resonated through the Spectre's hull and into our very bones. We stood at the nexus of something greater than any of us, surrounded by the remnants of a civilization that had once reached beyond the stars only to be consumed by its own ambition. The glyphs on the walls flickered, casting a tapestry of light and shadow that danced across our faces. It was a place of both revelation and enigma, and as I took a deep breath, the air felt charged with possibility. Myra approached the central console, her fingers tracing the intricate patterns etched into its surface. The console responded with a soft glow, as if recognizing her intent to understand. These controls, they're attuned to some kind of organic interface. It's like they're reading our thoughts. "Let's hope they're friendly thoughts," Talia quipped, though her eyes were wide with fascination. Skeevy, ever the skeptic, hovered near the entrance, casting wary glances at the walls. Anyone else getting the feeling this place is sizing us up? "We're visitors in a forgotten realm," I replied, my attention drawn to a holographic projection that sprang to life above the console. Its images flowed and reformed, a narrative unfolding before our eyes. The projection depicted a great diaspora, ships launching from world to world, carrying the hopes of a people who sought to tame the stars. But with each new dawn came greater risks, a dance with forces beyond their control. The singularity they had created, intended as a source of power and discovery, had instead become a harbinger of destruction. Rylan, who had been silent during the playback, spoke up. They were trying to harness the anomaly, use it as a bridge between dimensions, but it turned on them, creating rifts instead of connections. "And those rifts threatened everything they'd built," I said, piecing together the fragments of their tragic legacy, "until they sacrificed it all to contain what they'd unleashed." The story, though ancient, felt eerily familiar. It was a reminder of the fine line between creation and chaos, a lesson etched into the very bones of the universe. Talia stepped forward, her expression thoughtful. "So, what now? We're standing in the ruins of their ambition. How do we make sure we don't repeat their mistakes?" Before I could answer, the chamber shuddered, the glyphs flaring brightly before dimming once more. The entity's presence surged, a wave of intent that washed over us. "It's trying to show us something," Myra said, her voice tinged with determination. "Maybe there's a way to stabilize the rifts, use the anomaly as they intended." The idea hung in the air, tantalizing and terrifying in equal measure. The very thought of tampering with such forces was daunting, yet the alternative was to leave this place, and its potential lost to time. "Let's see what they left for us," I agreed, gesturing for the crew to gather round. "We might not be able to fix what happened, but maybe we can keep it from getting worse." As we worked, the chamber seemed to respond, the entity guiding our hands with subtle nudges of insight and intuition. It was as if the past itself was reaching out, offering a hand to pull us through the dark. The specter, nestled within the embrace of this ancient place, hummed with the rhythm of our efforts. Systems linked with the station, data flowing like water through a riverbed carved by time. Each step we took revealed another layer of complexity, the glyphs cycling through configurations that hinted at unfathomable depths of understanding. It was a puzzle, a challenge, and an opportunity all in one. Eventually, we reached a configuration that stabilized the energy within the chamber. The entity's presence pulsed with approval, and with a final flourish, the console emitted a low, harmonic tone that resonated through the structure. A tremor rippled outward, and I braced myself for the unknown. But instead of chaos, there was a sense of order, a calmness that spread like a balm over the frayed edges of reality. The rifts, once raw and unstable, began to weave together, forming a tapestry of potential. It was as if we had stitched the fabric of space-time, using the threads left behind by those who had come before. As we beheld the transformation, I felt an overwhelming sense of connection to the universe, to the past, and to each other. We were not alone, not in this chamber, nor in the vastness beyond. The entity, its task complete, shimmered one last time before dissipating into the walls, leaving us in a hush that felt sacred. "We did it," Myra breathed, her eyes shining with the light of discovery. "Yeah," Talia agreed, a smile breaking across her face. "We really did." Skeevy, never one to miss an opportunity, clapped me on the back. "Guess that makes us the saviors of whatever this is." I chuckled, though my heart was full. As we prepared to depart, the chamber's calm was a reminder that even amid the ruins of ambition, there could be hope. The specter disengaged from the station with a gentle lurch, setting course for the stars. The universe spread out before us, a vast canvas waiting to be explored anew. As we journeyed onward, I knew that our place in this saga was only just beginning. With allies beside us and a legacy behind, we were ready to face whatever the cosmos had in store. For in the depths of space, amidst the echoes of yesterday and the promise of tomorrow, we had found our true calling, to be explorers, guardians, and storytellers in a universe that never ceased to surprise. Part 7. The Starborn Legacy. The Spectre's corridors hummed with the soft cadence of life on board, our crew settling into a rhythm forged in camaraderie and mutual respect. The universe outside our portholes was a tapestry of darkness and light, each star a beacon of mystery and potential. Beyond the anomaly's veil, the galaxy awaited, and with it, a narrative still unwritten. The station's revelations had left us with more questions than answers, but as we navigated away from its gravitational embrace, I felt a curious sense of being watched over, not by an alien sentinel, but by the legacy of those we had come to understand. Their story was now entwined with ours, a shared thread in the intricate weave of destiny. Days passed, the Spectre traversing the cosmos with a quiet confidence she had earned through trial and resilience. We rendezvoused with the makeshift fleet that had rallied to our call, exchanging tales of battles fought and the bond forged in the crucible of the anomaly. One ship among them, the Vera Lynn, intrigued me more than most. Her captain, a grizzled but amiable Terran named Captain Neris, had an air of someone who had seen too much yet understood more. His crew mirrored ours, a motley collection of skills and stories united by a shared purpose. "So you're the one who stirred up the hornet's nest," Neris remarked, his gaze appraising as we shared a drink in the Spectre's mess. "Depends who you ask," I replied with a shrug, appreciating his candor. "From where I'm sitting, it looks more like the hornets found us." Neris chuckled, a sound like gravel rolling down a hill. "They always do, don't they? But you've got a knack for surviving it." Our conversation flowed easily, touching upon past exploits and future possibilities. The Vera Lynn had been scouting nearby systems when they received our signal, their sensors picking up disturbances that mirrored those of the anomaly. "Something's out there," Neris said, his expression losing its jovial edge. "Something big, bigger than what we've seen." I felt the weight of his words settle over me, a premonition that set my instincts alight. "You think it's connected to what we found?" "Could be," he answered, leaning back in his chair. "Or it could be something else entirely. Either way, it's got a lot of folks nervous." The idea of a looming threat, unseen but felt, was enough to send a shiver down my spine. As if the universe itself were shifting, preparing for a new chapter in its eternal dance. Back on the bridge, I gathered the crew to discuss our next move. The atmosphere was charged with purpose, the shadows of uncertainty banished by the light of shared resolve. "We've been through a lot," I began, meeting each of their gazes in turn. "I won't pretend to know what's ahead, but I do know we've got a choice. We can chart our course or let it be charted for us." Rylan, ever pragmatic, leaned forward. "We've come this far. Turning back now would feel like walking away from an unfinished masterpiece." Talia, sprawled with her typical nonchalance, nodded. "Besides, I've got a hunch there's more to this story, and I'd hate to miss a good twist." Myra was quiet, contemplative, her eyes reflecting the depths of the universe. "We owe it to them, the ones who left their mark and the ones we've yet to meet. If there's more to discover, we should be the ones to find it." Even Skeevy, his usual bravado softened by sincerity, chimed in. "Guess I'm sticking around, too. Somebody's gotta make sure you lot don't accidentally blow us up." The decision was made, unspoken but unanimous. We would head toward the disturbance, join the Vera Lynn and others seeking understanding in the chaos. As we charted our course, the universe unfurled before us, a vast canvas, each star a potential waypoint on our journey. The Spectre's engines hummed with anticipation, the ship becoming an extension of our collective will. The days stretched into nights, marked by the gentle ebb and flow of life aboard the frigate. We exchanged stories, forged memories, and steeled ourselves for the trials ahead. In the quiet moments, I found my thoughts returning to the entity we had encountered, wondering at the intelligence that had reached across time to guide us. Its legacy, once hidden in ancient glyphs and forgotten structures, now lived within us, a beacon in the unknown. The Spectre emerged from hyperspace on the periphery of an uncharted system, the cosmos welcoming us with its myriad glimmers. On the horizon, a celestial phenomenon awaited, a convergence of energy and light that defied explanation, its beauty both mesmerizing and foreboding. As we prepared to delve into this new enigma, I felt the weight of the past and the promise of the future entwined, each step propelling us further into the tapestry of the stars. We stood on the cusp of discovery, our place in the grand narrative still unfolding. And in that moment, I understood that the journey was as infinite as the universe itself, a voyage through time and space, boundless and exhilarating. With the Spectre as our guide and the stars as our compass, we sailed onwards into the heart of the unknown, ready to embrace whatever awaited beyond the veil. Part 8, The Cosmic Tapestry. The specter glided silently through the void, her sensors reaching out to the mysterious convergence ahead. The cosmic anomaly loomed like a great kaleidoscope of energy, swirling with hues that defied earthly description. It was beautiful in its chaos, a testament to the universe's untamed wonder. The rest of the fleet hung back, their lights twinkling like distant constellations. Captain Neris had opted to let the Spectre take point, an honor that was as much a responsibility as a strategic advantage. We knew the stakes were high. This was uncharted territory, a potential gateway to understanding or peril. On the bridge, tension and excitement crackled like static. Talia stood at the helm, her posture relaxed but her eyes alert, ready to maneuver the ship at a moment's notice. Rylan was monitoring the Spectre's systems, ensuring that our old ship would handle whatever this cosmic maelstrom threw at us. Myra, immersed in her data, murmured to herself, deciphering the readings that painted a picture of the phenomenon's complexity. Skeevy, for all his bravado, seemed awed into silence, his gaze fixed on the dazzling display beyond the viewport. I stepped forward, my attention riveted by the spectacle. The anomaly was larger than anything we'd encountered, its energies fluctuating in patterns that suggested purpose, even intelligence. This was no ordinary anomaly, it was alive. "Approaching event horizon," Talia announced, her voice cutting through the atmosphere like a finely tuned instrument. "Steady as she goes," I replied, feeling the thrill of adventure surge through me. This was why we'd come, why we risked everything, because in the heart of the unknown we'd found our calling. As the Spectre edged closer, the anomaly's energies began to affect the ship's systems. Screens flickered with streams of data, patterns shifting and coalescing into new configurations. It was as if the anomaly were reaching out, attempting to communicate. Myra's eyes widened, her fingers flying over the console. "These signals, they resemble the patterns we saw back at the station. It's trying to tell us something." Rylan joined her, the two of them working together with fluid precision. "If we can decode it, we might be able to respond, establish a dialogue." "Or open a door we can't close," Skeevy muttered, though his voice carried a thread of curiosity. He was the skeptic, but even he couldn't deny the allure of the mystery. Talia glanced at me, a question in her eyes. "Do we go through with it?" I nodded, feeling the weight of the decision settle over me like a mantle. "We've come this far, let's see what's on the other side." With a few quick adjustments, the Spectre's comms array was reconfigured, broadcasting a signal that mirrored the anomaly's patterns. For a moment, nothing happened. The universe held its breath, the air in the bridge charged with anticipation. Then the anomaly responded. The energies shifted, drawing us in with a gentle yet insistent pull. The ship shuddered, reality distorting as we crossed the threshold into the unknown. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. The Spectre was engulfed in a sea of light and sound, a symphony of sensations that defied comprehension. I could feel it, a presence, ancient and vast, enveloping us in its embrace. Images flooded my mind. Worlds spinning in orbit, civilizations rising and falling, the inexorable march of time stretched out like an endless tapestry. This was the universe's memory, a chronicle of existence etched into the fabric of space itself. And within that tapestry I saw them, the beings who had come before, the architects of the anomaly. Their story unfolded in a cascade of emotions and images, a tale of creation, ambition, and ultimately sacrifice. Myra's voice broke through the reverie, awed and reverent. They were explorers much like us. They sought to understand the universe, to bridge the divide between dimensions. But they lost control, Rylan added, his tone somber. Their creation threatened to unravel everything they'd built. The images shifted, revealing the steps they'd taken to contain the threat, a sequence of events that mirrored our own journey. It was a cautionary tale, a reminder of the balance between discovery and responsibility. As the vision faded, I was left with a profound sense of connection, not only to these ancient beings but to the universe itself. We were all part of the same story, a narrative that wove through time and space, binding us together in our shared quest for meaning. The anomaly released us, the specter emerging into the familiar starlit void once more. Outside, the fleet waited, their presence a comforting reassurance against the vastness. "We did it," Talia said, her voice filled with quiet triumph. "We really did." "That was," Skeevy trailed off, struggling to find words for the ineffable experience. "An invitation," I finished for him, understand. Ing dawning within me, to continue their work, to chart a path forward together. The crew exchanged glances, the enormity of our task settling over us like a starry mantle. There were still answers to be found, mysteries to unravel, but now we had a roadmap, a vision of what could be. As the fleet gathered around us, their lights twinkling in solidarity, I knew we were ready. Ready to step into the unknown, to embrace our place in the cosmic tapestry. With newfound purpose, we set our course for the next horizon, the universe stretching before us, an endless frontier waiting to be explored. Together, we would weave our own story into the stars, one discovery at a time. Part 9. The Celestial Gift. The Spectre sailed gracefully through the cosmic sea, her engines thrumming with the steady rhythm of exploration. The universe spread before us like a vast, uncharted ocean, each star a lighthouse guiding us toward the unknown. We'd become more than travelers, we were custodians of a legacy, charged with the task of safeguarding the balance between discovery and the responsibility it demanded. As the fleet moved in loose formation, the Vera Lynn maintained a steady course alongside us. Our alliance had strengthened, forged in the crucible of shared challenges and mutual respect. But with that bond came the weight of knowing that our journey was only just beginning. We gathered on the Spectre's bridge, the crew animated with the energy of purpose. Talia leaned against the helm, her eyes focused on the viewscreen that displayed the tapestry of stars. "We've come a long way," she mused, brushing a stray hair from her face. "What's next on our cosmic to-do list?" Myra chimed in, her tablet brimming with data. "There's an energy signature nearby, similar to the anomaly, but different. It's faint, like an echo." "An echo of what?" Rylan asked, his curiosity piqued. "That's what we need to find out," I replied, the words pulling my gaze back to the endless expanse. "If it's related to the anomaly, it could be a clue, a piece of the puzzle we haven't yet considered." Skeevy snorted, though his expression was more intrigued than skeptical. "Great, more cosmic riddles, just what I always wanted." Despite his words, we were all drawn to the mystery. The universe was a vast enigma, and every clue was a step closer to understanding our place within it. We adjusted our course, the fleet following our lead like an armada of curious wanderers. The Spectre's sensors reached out, unraveling the complex tapestry of space as we neared the energy source. It didn't take long to find it. An object adrift in the void, its surface shimmering with an iridescence that suggested advanced construction. It was a sphere, roughly the size of a small moon, its surface etched with patterns that reminded me of the glyphs we'd seen on the station. As we approached, the sphere responded to our presence, the patterns shifting as if to acknowledge our arrival. There was an intelligence behind its design, a sentience that seemed to resonate with our own. Myra's eyes were alight with discovery. This thing is incredible. It's not just a construct, it's an archive, a repository of knowledge. Rylan, ever the pragmatist, nodded. And if it's connected to the anomaly, it might hold the keys we need. Skeevy leaned closer to the screen, his interest piqued despite himself. So, do we knock, or is there a cosmic doorbell? Talia grinned, her fingers dancing over the controls. Let's say hello and see what happens. With a few deft keystrokes, we initiated contact, broadcasting a signal that mirrored the patterns on the sphere's surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, the sphere began to open, its surface peeling back to reveal an interior bathed in soft, welcoming light. We docked the specter with the sphere, entering its interior with equal parts caution and awe. The chamber within was vast and circular, its walls lined with crystalline structures that pulsed with a gentle luminescence. The air was alive with a sense of anticipation, as if the very structure of the sphere awaited our inquiry. With a nod, I gestured for the crew to explore, each of us drawn to the promise of discovery. As we moved through the chamber, the crystalline structures responded to our presence, projecting holographic displays that filled the air with images and data. It was a library of the cosmos, a chronicle of knowledge gathered from across the stars. Myra's voice was hushed with wonder. This is beyond anything we've ever seen. It's like a universal archive, Rylan agreed, his gaze sweeping over the displays. As we delved deeper, the sphere revealed its secrets. It was a gift, a celestial repository crafted by the same beings who had created the anomaly. They had gathered knowledge from across the universe, preserving it for those who would come after. It was their legacy, passed down through the ages, and now it was ours to steward. Within the sphere lay the potential to understand the cosmos, to learn from its past and shape its future. As I stood before the heart of the sphere, the crystalline structures bathed me in their light. I felt a profound sense of connection, a bond that transcended time and space. "We're custodians now," I said, the weight of the responsibility settling over me like a mantle. "We have a duty to protect this knowledge, to use it wisely." Talia clapped me on the shoulder, her expression one of shared resolve. "And to make sure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands." Skeevy, ever the opportunist, grinned. "I guess we're the galaxy's new library cardholders." Wit. A chuckle, we continued our exploration, the sphere's secrets unfolding before us. The universe was vast and mysterious, but within its depths lay the promise of discovery and the hope of a brighter tomorrow. As the specter prepared to depart, the sphere's presence lingered, a beacon of knowledge in the cosmic sea. We had been given a gift, a chance to understand the universe and our place within it. With newfound purpose, we set our course for the stars once more, the specter leading the way into the endless expanse. Together, we would write our story among the stars, each chapter a testament to the journey we shared, a journey that was only just beginning.